And we're coming to you live for the Built Ford Top Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Wednesday morning. A little bit of a gift to New York sports fans last night, before baseball starts tomorrow, as we are on the eve of opening day for the Mets and the Yankees and the rest of Major League Baseball, as we find out that the New York Giants aren't done with backup quarterbacks and trying to find guys that can win this year for them, as they bring in none other than one of my favorites, I say sarcastically, Russell Wilson. Yes, Mr. Let Russ Cook, Mr. Unlimited, Mr. Broncos Country, Let's Ride, Mr. I don't get along with my teammates because they can't understand me, Mr. I really wanted a big contract, and I went on the NFL Today and campaigned for that. Sitting next to Boomer, Mr. I'm going to be all over New York with my wife, and this is going to be a great thing for my post-playing career. Russell Wilson is a New York Giant. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. And I will also add to that, Mr. First Ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's had some incredible numbers. He's played over 230 games. And quite frankly, in the last 5 years, he's thrown 123 touchdowns and only 43 interceptions, completed 65% of his passes, and he has a passer rating of 97. And he's been on 3 different franchises over those 5 years. And, you know, the one with Sean Payton, he had a pretty decent year. He was 25-6 when it came to interceptions, the touchdowns. The thing I will say about Russell Wilson is that he's not the Russell Wilson from 10 years ago, so he's not going to run around and make a million plays the way that he used to, but he still does move around quite a bit. I think that is due a large part to his height and finding places to throw the ball. But, you know, he's a safe guy. He plays safe. He's not a guy that's just going to, you know, he'll throw his moon ball, but he is not going to – he's going to protect the football is what I'm telling you, and he's not going to take a lot of sacks. I just think that, you know, for the Giants right now, they have to win somehow, some way. And they have 2 reasonably competent quarterbacks to do that. And they've only spent a total of about $14.5 million on those quarterbacks for this specific year. And I don't know if they will still draft a guy. I don't think they will. I mean, could this be a place where you have 2 veteran quarterbacks? You know, Tommy DeVito's still here, but you have 2 veteran quarterbacks you just signed. One was a first overall pick. One was a third-round pick. One went to the Super Bowl a couple times. You know, it was in the MVP conversation. It's been around. He's 36 years old. Is this a situation where, if it is a Shedeur Sanders, is it a good spot for him? I certainly don't think that that's the case. I think the Giants could do one of 2 things now. Number one, they may get the best player in the draft at the 3rd pick overall. Or number 2, they trade out of number 3 and they trade down to, I don't know, 7 or 8 and still get a top quality player and acquire a couple other draft picks in order to do that. So a little bit of flexibility. I'm not going to sit here and kill this. I know what Russell Wilson is. I know that he comes across disingenuous, but he is a professional quarterback that can play, that is opposite. He's the opposite of Jameis Winston.
Yeah, of course. And listen, I've never liked the guy, but it doesn't mean that I hate him coming here. I know exactly what the Giants are doing. And I also think there's something that's being missed out there from this signing yesterday and the timing of things. So you don't think that they're going to draft a quarterback even if one is available there now at 3?
Not high, not high at number 3.
See, I disagree. I think the timing of this, so originally, because these GMs, they talk, but you really don't know what they're going to do unless it's like last year where it's Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. You really don't know, especially this year, what the Titans and the Browns are going to do. So it was assumed that when the Titans brass came out and said we're not passing on a generational talent, that they're talking about someone other than a quarterback. So then that would mean that the Giants would get either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders at 3 because the Titans wouldn't be picking one of them. A lot of that has changed in recent days. So the Cam Ward pro day, the Titans apparently growing increasingly interested in Cam Ward, so much so that they got him in for a private workout, and Adam Schefter is putting this out there everywhere about how they're now falling in love with Cam Ward, and no one was thinking that was going to happen.
Maybe they're just trying to up the ante to get to number 1.
Maybe
they
yes, I did. But also, as I finished the point, Then now you've got a chance for that they didn't think it was happening. A chance for Cam Ward 1. The Browns have to take a quarterback at 2, and they could be shut out in a season that they have to win. So now they're thinking all of a sudden yesterday. To me, it's no coincidence that yesterday all this Cam Ward to the Titans stuff is out there, and then finally the Giants pull the trigger on Russell Wilson because they don't want to be out there, holding their you-know-whats. And not have a quarterback again because of what happened to him last year when the top 3 guys were picked and then they couldn't pick a quarterback.
And it also tells you that Aaron Rodgers is obviously not coming here.
Well, yeah, he'll be able to Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steeler, right? Yeah. So I agree with your assessment. I just think the Giants are trying to go the best way that they know how, or think that they know how, to play it safe at the quarterback position and not waste this 3rd overall pick on one of these players, that is a reach. I think there are a number of players, and I've said this now for at least a month, that there are probably top 10 players that you could draft at. And by the way, this draft in the first round, this is going to be an edge rusher draft. That there are probably about 8 guys that play that position that will go in the first round. Mm-hmm. That is going to be the heavy. The heavy emphasis is going to be on that particular position in this draft in the first round. There'll probably be about 4 offensive linemen drafted, maybe 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, unless Jackson Dart somehow gets in the top 32. I mean,
he will. There's always a guy that ends up in there.
It's going to be a heavy edge rushing draft. That's what to me. That's what it looks like. It's really, turning out to be, which means that the Giants could get one of those really good edge rushers. There's 2 tackles that they could take. There is a couple of inside linemen they could take. They could possibly take Mason Graham, defensive tackle, who is a stud, by the way. So they're going to get a good player, whoever it is, and that player is going to be expected to start immediately. Hey, they may even have a shot at Travis Hunter.
Yeah, they may. I mean, of course, if the first 2 teams in the scenario that I painted take a quarterback, and that's I really believe that's what's going on. I just, if you think about a conversation between Joe Shane and Brian Daboll and everybody else in that building, they know that they have to win more games, significantly more games, to keep their jobs. There's 2 ways that they keep their jobs past this year. One is they show ownership that they drafted a guy that could be the future of the organization. Or 2, they have a winning record or close to a winning record, and the team's got some excitement around them. So what they have done now is gotten an insurance policy here. Now that they think that maybe they get shut out of a quarterback with the first 2 picks as they sit there number 3, they bring in Russell Wilson as the insurance policy and say, hey, if we get shut out with those quarterbacks, at least now we have a guy in Russ that as recently as last year showed us that he can win football games, so much so that team ended up getting in the playoffs even though they fell apart at the end of the season. Because what they didn't want to do was have Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito on the roster, and then all of a sudden the draft goes a certain way where they've got, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders go 1-2, and then they take a great player, but now they've got no future at the quarterback position. Jameis Winston's throwing interceptions all over the place. They've got 5 wins, and then they're gone.
It's kind of interesting that it all happened yesterday because when we were talking about, and Jerry was playing the cuts of Cam Ward coming from his pro day, and then you listen to his coach, you listen to Cam Ward, you listen to him say, yeah, I showed them exactly what they needed to see. There's a lot of confidence there with that kid, and that kid I feel like is really growing on people. And, I think that Joe Shane probably felt yesterday, look, if we're going to have to trade up to number 1 to get him,
they don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that because we're going to ruin our team. We're going to ruin the future of our team. And quite frankly, I really do. I understand the situation he's in. So I want to give him credit for not overreacting and now buying into everything that the Titans are selling about Cam Ward. And Cam Ward may be good. I know he may be a great player. It sounds like he's a good kid and everything else. So that's great, and he's a good leader. But he's going to struggle. He's going to a team that's going to struggle, and he wants to. It sounds like he wants to play for Brian Callahan, their head coach down there, because Brian Callahan has coached some very good quarterbacks in this league, including Joe Burrow, his last stop prior to becoming the head coach of the Titans. So it sounds like that's the case. And now the Giants just sit here and they could take one of like 5 different players at number 3 that will be immediate starters for them.
Yeah,
on either side of the ball. By the way.
Right, which would be great for them in the future of the team. But I still think, where we disagree is, I still think if you've got a situation where Shedeur Sanders is available at 3, I still think the Giants take Shedeur Sanders.
You want to know who I think is, in a weird way, this could happen, and I don't know. Again, this is just pure speculation on my part.
I love pure speculation.
I know you do, especially when I give it to you and it actually works out, and then I can refer back to the pure speculation.
What'd I tell you?
I still, for whatever reason, believe that Shedeur Sanders is going to end up with the Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
I just believe that. I don't know why. He's working out with Tom Brady, supposedly. He and Tom Brady have had a lot of interaction together. I know they traded for Geno Smith.
Geno's not, 25 years old anymore.
I know, but time out. Geno wanted a contract extension from Seattle. Seattle offered him the same contract that they just gave to Sam Darnold. Once Geno wanted more money than that, that's when they decided to trade him. I have not seen a new contract down the pipe here for Geno Smith from the Raiders at all.
No.
And could the Giants say to the Raiders, we'll let you trade up to 3 if Shedeur is there. We'll take 7 and maybe take 2 other draft picks from you, and still at number 7 be able to get a very valuable player because it's inside the top 10 where most of the really top, all the top players are. But they say that there are a lot of can't-miss players in the top 10, and I'm just going by listening to the Todd McShays of the world, the Mel Kipers of the world, the people that do this for a living. And maybe the Giants are able to acquire even more players with a trade with the Raiders if, in fact, Shedeur is there.
Yeah, I mean, that is a scenario that I could absolutely see playing out. Another one I could see playing out, and this sets up just wonderfully for drama, is that the Cleveland Browns, they see Cam Ward go number 1 to the Titans. They want a quarterback, need a quarterback with the situation that they are in, and then you get the Deion camp and Shedeur saying, nope, we're not going to that organization. You've ruined 10 million quarterbacks. We're not going to be 10 million and one. And then you get one of those deals where he either gets traded to the Giants, the Browns pick him, or the Browns don't pick him because of all of this, and then they have to be able to trade with either the Browns or the Raiders. It could be high drama now. If Cam Ward really does go to the Titans, and it feels like there's a lot of momentum in that way, and we still got weeks to go, that Shedeur Cleveland Browns thing is just huge.
There's a really, I don't know if he's a smart, I know he's a smart player. I know he's a great player. I know that when the season was over, he was chirping. He wanted out of Cleveland. We're not winning. I'm a winner. I want to win. I got to get out of here. Cleveland signs Kenny Pickett. They give Myles Garrett, they back up the Brinks truck and they give him the money. Oh, I can't, I'm going to retire a Brown now because
of course,
you overpaid me like you overpaid Deshaun Watson. I'll tell you, the Browns should have traded Myles Garrett. They should have traded Myles Garrett. They should have restarted because they have the same quarterback issues that the Giants have.
And it's worse because of the Deshaun Watson
right,
contract.
Exactly. I mean, Deshaun Watson's not going to be available this year anyway. But that contract's a killer. That whole situation's a killer. But Myles Garrett should have really forced a trade to a winning team in the NFC. And somebody would have given, I think, would have given them a haul for Myles Garrett. Plus, they would have paid Myles Garrett, not the Browns. And the Browns could have restarted their entire franchise. And I think they made a mistake. Now, they may end up drafting Shedeur Sanders. Is that going to keep Myles Garrett happy? I guess 2 years from now, Myles Garrett will be, chirping again that this franchise is horrendous because they just don't know what they don't know what they're doing. They can't get out of their own way.
Right. I mean, unless they draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward and that player turns out to be Jaden Daniels. That's the only way that team can turn it around. And I think they have to draft a quarterback. I don't think they have a choice. I mean, okay, Kenny Pickett's there. What, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, is he still there? Like, what are they? Deshaun Watson retore his Achilles. You're never going to see that guy play a game in the NFL ever again, I don't think.
I mean, like,
what are you going to do?
How many years off can he take and still get paid? I mean, he's got the Kevin Durant thing down to a science.
Yeah, indeed. But I think that they're going to have to take a quarterback. I think they have to.
And maybe Joe Shane knows that.
And that's why he ended up, and that's why I think that they had this insurance policy with Russell Wilson, because they did not want to assume that they were going to get one of those two quarterbacks, not get one of those guys, and then go into the season with Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito because they know Aaron Rodgers wasn't coming there.
The problem really with Russell the last couple, well, especially last year, he only played 11 games because Justin Fields started. There's a reason, Justin Fields was 4-2, and when Russell took over. And you're sitting there going, like, why? Something must be up with Justin Fields. Like, what? Why would you take a guy off the field?
Well, I can't throw the ball. That's why.
Well, I mean, the Jets, hopefully he can throw for the Jets.
Well,
now that's interesting, too. Let's say Shedeur does fall to the Jets. I don't think he will, but if he did, would the Jets go for him?
I think you have to. I mean, if he falls all the way down there, I think you have to.
I don't know.
Crazy not
something weird is going on with these guys. I think that Cam Ward has really solidified himself. I think there's still a lot of discussion out there about Shedeur. I even think there's still a lot of discussion out there about Travis Hunter because though he was a great college player, two-way player, 65 plays a game, insane. Where is he going to be great on the NFL football field? And should he be the defensive back or should he be the wide receiver or should he – I think what's going to happen is whoever drafts him. See, this is the conundrum that the Giants have. They need defensive backs.
Yeah, but I think that – so I'll go back to the two ways they keep their job. So think about this. And is they – let's say they get shut out of the quarterback and that option of keeping their job doesn't exist because one of the options is you draft a young quarterback, shows he's the future of the franchise. Joe Shane nailed it. Brian Daboll looks like he's got a handle on this thing, and they keep their job. So let's say that's not an option. Now what they do, they get Russell Wilson there who can win some games, and now you draft a guy like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. So Joe Shane, and let's assume one of those two guys works out. You say, I got Malik Neighbors last year. I got Travis Hunter or Duke Carter this year. Like, yeah, the quarterback position's kind of been a disaster. But look, we are stocking this team with studs, and we won 9 games with Russell Wilson last year.
Yeah, that would be the hope. That would be the hope.
So how could you fire us now? So that's what their plan B is if a quarterback isn't available.
It has to be.
Yeah.
And, it's unfortunate for them that they won a couple games that they shouldn't have last year. But had they not won those games, maybe they end up getting fired because of it.
Yeah, and this has the potential to be the most interesting quarterback room I've ever seen. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Shedeur Sanders, and Tommy DeVito. I mean, that is like the original kings of comedy.
Yes.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen.
But if it did, it would be amazing. You couldn't get 4 more different guys. You really couldn't.
Yeah, I don't think to me, I don't know. Shedeur is an uber confident guy, and obviously he rubbed people the wrong way at the combine. It's been talked about incessantly. I just hope for his sake that he ends up going somewhere, not Cleveland, not the Giants, somewhere where he could sit for a year or two. And
he would sit with the Giants if they drafted him now. There's no two ways about it.
I mean,
he would definitely sit.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. I mean, I kind of like what the Giants did. They really have no other choice. They tried for Matthew Stafford. They tried for Aaron Rodgers, and they end up signing 2 guys that at least give you an opportunity to go out there, call plays, and throw the ball down the field and try to keep Malik Neighbors happy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that we should, even though, and listen, I understand that Russell Wilson is not the same guy 10 years ago, but you should see competent offensive football from the Giants this year, which is something that we have not seen.
When I think about it,
see that.
So in 2020, Russell Wilson threw 40 touchdown passes and 13 interceptions for Seattle. Then it was 25-6. And then under Hackett, that was a disaster. That's not his fault as much as it is Denver and who was running the team, the ownership of the team, because the ownership changed right after this. And Russell took advantage of all of it because Denver thought by hiring Hackett, they were going to be able to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. Aaron decided to stay in Green Bay one more year with his buddies. Remember that whole story?
Of course, yeah.
So they had a pivot, Denver did, because they knew they hadn't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning had left. So they, like the Giants, are sitting there going, we got to have somebody. So they bring in Russell Wilson, and he does not mesh with Hackett. He's closer with the GM. He's closer with the ownership. He's got his own office in the building. It was ridiculous. And, he ends up going 16-11 that year in terms of touchdowns and interceptions, and it wasn't great. So now they got to bring in Sean Payton to put the whole thing straight. And he goes 26-8 with Sean Payton his first year together. But, that was just a year they were going to be forced on each other.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to have to deal with it. And Sean Payton was going I just don't want to deal with this guy. I want a new guy in here. And that's why he ends up, going to Pittsburgh on the cheap because Denver was still paying him. And I don't know why Mike Tomlin didn't want him back. I guess for some reason Mike Tomlin wasn't a big fan, it seems like.
Yeah, he couldn't have been a big fan of either one of those guys with the contracts that they both got because they were not massive contracts.
No, they weren't.
So I think they were set. Once they knew Aaron Rodgers was available and interested, I think they were dead set on getting him and didn't want either one of these two guys.
Yeah, and I think they're going to pay Aaron Rodgers, even though Aaron Rodgers got $75 million guaranteed from the Jets. And the Jets, I think, are still paying him some money this year. Aaron Rodgers is not going to Pittsburgh for the cheap.
I don't think so.
You're either paying him full boat for 2 years, which I think is the smart thing for Pittsburgh to do and Aaron Rodgers to do, unless Aaron is still waiting around for the Vikings. But I think he's got to give Pittsburgh an answer because Pittsburgh needs to know going into this draft, what do we need to do? Do we need to draft Jackson Dart? Do we need to go after Kyle McCord? Do we need to go after Jalen Milroy, one of those guys later on in the draft?
Well, I mean, Pittsburgh's desperate at this point. He's not going to go to Minnesota. You're going to see J.J. McCarthy start there, but they're desperate. There's no other options now. They can't bring Russell Wilson or Justin Fields back anymore. They're here in New York. All right, Boomer and Gio.
Actually, remarkable day yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of fun, though.